Anyway, we mentioned Brett Yormark here in this segment and what he said on Marchand and Outland, or Outland and Marchand, whichever
Outland and Marchand, I think. Is how
You'll see the graphic in a second.
Yeah.
But the Sports Business podcast, which is so great. But Brett Yormark is on their episode this week. This is the audio from that interview with Commissioner Brett Yormark.
What I have learned here during expansion, and I still do have a little bit of a knot in my stomach, I never want my gain to be someone else's loss. That's a little different here. And I, on the heels of not Colorado, but of all four corner schools coming, I texted George, reached out to him. Obviously, he was busy. He and I spoke last week. And effectively, I said, hey, I'm sorry it came down to this. And I'm sorry I put you in a tough position, but this was something that, we had to do. And, this was something that the board and our key stakeholders encouraged. And I'm sorry that my gain is your loss. And we had a very collegial conversation. George was fantastic. And I'll be seeing him again in a couple of weeks at some industry meetings. I'm not one to hide. And again, I've been very intentional about expansion. And I did that in an effort to make sure that I didn't do, expansion didn't happen in someone's shadow. It didn't happen at night. It wasn't a shock and awe moment. Everyone knew the Big 12 had an appetite to expand. And I'm maybe some people in the industry didn't like that I was so intentional about it, but I'm very transparent. In fact, I telegraphed it. And I just felt that was the right way to do it versus other things that I witnessed and observed in our industry over time, where transparency really wasn't really what happened. I felt I had to do it a little differently, and that's really about my personality and how I do things, generally speaking. What I have.
So there you go. That's what he said. And I think that I appreciate the operating in the open. I mean, it was clear. Sure. It was one of those things you were saying.
But it was so out in the open, buddy, that they were, complaining about how in the open it was. Like there was no attempt to hide anything on his end or the Big 12's end, and it worked out for them in the end. But I do want to single out one thing there, and that was at the very last part of that clip. I haven't seen a lot of this. I literally saw it while I just Googled Brett Yormark's name just to see like what else is out there as we start to talk about this. And I saw just a couple of comments, and maybe there's 200 of them. I don't know. I'm not looking that deep into it. But to think that clip was him taking a shot at the SEC, that was clearly to the Big Ten to me, because they're the ones that have double dipped in this whole thing. So I think to me it's more them. Like they got Oregon and Washington without doing any of the out front public stuff that Yormark was doing. Oh no, we're fine. We're not looking to expand. Oregon, Washington are available on the cheap. Bingo.
And they'd already vetted them.
They'd already vetted them. Or, now I know they did that the last time or whatever, but like we nod, wink, wink. We know what the Big Ten's up to. They're not sly. So yeah, I think that was more in their direction than it was in Sankey's direction. But however you want to read, that's fine. I love the honesty and the openness, and I love him as the commissioner. Been an incredible year just watching how they wheeled and dealed and got things done, and it's just a breath of fresh air. I don't know how long, that we'll be able to enjoy that type of an attitude and direction, but hopefully for a good while. But I know that he's, that Aaron and Marcia are talking about, he's like be in the running for like executive of the year based on all the things that's going on. So he's going to only get more attention. But man, the last year in Big 12 athletics with him at the helm, with the ADs just saying, let's go, has been a lot of fun to track and a huge departure from, basically the remainder of their entire history before that. Total 180 from kind of how it was, prior to his arrival. So that's been fun.
Yeah. It's been eye opening, and I appreciate all that. I agree with the Big Ten. Like they kept saying, like the rumor, the things that they were clearly putting out was, well, we don't want to be the ones who
kill the Pac-12.
Yeah. But you started it.
But you did though. You still, but you still were the ones that killed the Pac-12 because whatever the reporting was, and we got to go to Mac Rhodes, but apparently Oregon, Washington, and all they were staying together, and all of a sudden minds are changed or whatever. So unpack that how you want to, but without Big Ten interest, those schools stay pat and nothing changes. So no, it was much more on the blood on their hands as much as anybody else's. And why even try to I don't get I guess fans of, I'm not a fan of the Big 12 per se of that's my team that I root for. There's definitely things that I pull for, but what's wrong with just saying if you're a Big Ten fan, yeah, they killed it. Admit it. So what? You did it and move on because that's what happened. But yeah, it was definitely not a one-man show with the end of the pack there, although the end remains to be seen because they're still obviously trying to find ways to make it still work. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, when we come back, our good friend